Hey, how's it going, guys? Brian here with Quit Drinking Alcohol Motivation. And it's been a while since my last post. I know there's only 10 subscribers on this channel. I guess it's not exactly the hottest topic in the world, but it's probably because the content, probably because being sober is boring as hell. Because you just have to face life head on and you can't numb yourself, you can't block it out, you can't forget about anything. You just have to look straight at it. And well, so a little bit about my backstory. I've been an addict, alcoholic since I was around 17 years old. Started off just, with pills, beer, weed. Graduated to cocaine, ecstasy, LSD, shrooms, pretty much everything else. Even tried smoked crack for a couple of years. Not proud to admit it, but yeah, did that. Never injected anything. Did sniff Oxycontin and heroin for a couple of years. Um, but, you know, people always separate alcohol and drugs. Like you have Alcoholics Anonymous, which primarily focuses on alcohol. But I think alcohol is just like the gateway drug to all drugs. They say weed is the gateway drug, and I think it definitely can be. I used to not think that way when I was younger. I was like, oh, weed, that's nothing. Now I kind of changed my tune on it. I do see that weed can definitely be a gateway drug, especially with these strengths of weed that they have out now. Um, but at the end of it all, at the root of it all, it's just addiction and escapism. It doesn't really matter what the substance is. And of course, it could be food. It could be food addiction, could be work addiction, could be gambling addiction, sexual addictions, all types of addictions, right? You could even phone addictions. That's common these days, video game addictions, right? It's really just a way to distract yourself from dealing with what you know that you should probably be dealing with. And maybe it's just people that have too much time on their hands. Maybe if because I've had the thought, well, maybe if I was just working 40 hours a week, I wouldn't, three jobs, working 70 hours a week, you wouldn't have time for any addictions, right? But that's also a lie because once you sock away enough money, you're going to want to go and cut loose on the weekends, right? Like the one book says abstinence always leads to binging, right? So the best strategy is to just find a common ground, a middle ground where, you could just have a couple and put it down. The problem with that for addicts is we can't just have a couple and put it down. If you drink one, it's going to lead to 20. And I want to talk about my most recent relapse, okay? So I got sober. I was sober for 9 months. Most of my drinking and relapsing has been linked directly to women. Okay, so I used various different substances from the time I was 17. By the time I was 21, I was doing all sorts of hard drugs, and I did hard drugs from the time I was 21 to the time I was 30. Around age 30, I finally got clean. But by the time I was 32, so the longest period of sobriety I've had since I was 17 was a period of 2 years when I was 30. I was off of everything and I focused 100% on business. Then I started smoking weed again at 32. And I smoked weed from about until I was 32 until I was about 36 or 7, somewhere in there. So I smoked weed for about 5 or 6 more years in my 30s. And then I was working out in Colorado. I hadn't drank in about 7 years, and I was off of all hard drugs. And I focused all my energy on business. I built a real estate business. I had online e-commerce businesses, and I did pretty well. But I started to get stressed out with my real estate businesses because I was from New Jersey, and I built the business in Colorado. So I'd have to travel across the country to do the real estate business. and it put a lot of stress and strain on me. So what ended up happening was I was in Colorado working on one of my flips. My contractor left his trailer filled with tools at the job, and I had to go out there by myself to try to finish the work. And he left a six pack in the fridge. And I was still smoking weed at the time. When I first got there, I saw the six pack. I was like, yeah, whatever. He left a six pack there. It was Budweiser. I don't even like Budweiser. If it was Heineken, I would probably would have drank it sooner. But what ended up happening was I was smoking a joint and something happened with my lung to where my heart started beating real fast. I went to the hospital. I went straight to the hospital and they said it was something to do with elevations and maybe a possible pulmonary embolism or something. I never did figure out what was the problem with that because I was able to go back to smoking a little bit after that within the past couple of years after my most recent relapse. But anyway, I felt that I had to stop smoking. So there was that addiction circuit in me that was being fulfilled through the weed. And I was smoking a lot of weed, by the way. I was smoking the concentrate pens, the wax, the shatter, flower, all that stuff, edibles. I was doing it all. I was smoking pretty heavy for those 7 years in my 30s, right? So at 37 or 38, I had to stop smoking weed for health reasons. And guess what was there? That six pack of Budweiser sitting in the fridge, and I was alone and I was stressed out because I was in Colorado by myself, responsible for fixing up this house. And me and my ex wife couldn't agree to live there rent free. I wanted to live there rent free, and she wanted to go back to Jersey to be around her family. We could never agree on it. It ultimately led to our divorce. I'm out there by myself with my dog. So I ended up just going in the fridge and I drank the six pack. And a couple of days later, I had no outlet. I couldn't smoke weed anymore. I was taking edibles for a little bit, but the edibles got boring quick. I wanted something a little bit stronger, something that hit a little bit harder. So then I went to the liquor store, and because in Colorado they sell beer right at the Walmart. So I went to the Walmart and bought a case of beer, bought a case of Heineken. Next thing you know, I'm sitting out at the lake drinking a 12 pack of Heineken. And I felt great at the time. This was back in like 2016, 2017. All right, so from there, I continued drinking and dabbling a little bit. It got progressively worse over time. I went back to Jersey, tried to build a life in Jersey, which I didn't never wanted to do, but I was still trying to make things work with my ex-wife. So I tried to rebuild my real estate company in Jersey, sell that. I sold the house. I went back to Jersey after losing my lender in Colorado for my flips, and I was just unhappy. I was unhappy for years. My business was still semi-successful in Jersey. I had a series of nice house flips. And then I ended up living in this small town in South Jersey at a property that had a really bad tick infestation. And I was still trying to run my Colorado company from this property, and I was just unhappy. Point blank, I was just unhappy. Every time I had to be forced to go to a family event, all I would think of was how it was unfair to me and all these selfish reasons of why I wanted to go back to Colorado and run my house flipping company and not live in New Jersey anymore because I had a lot of bad memories. One of the biggest factors that led me to create the Colorado real estate company was I had a lot of bad memories from New Jersey from my friends who overdosed and died because we were all on drugs. Literally every single one of my friends from Jersey was on drugs, and a lot of them died. And I just wanted to get out of there and forget about it and, get clean and remain sober for a couple of years. So what ended up happening was I had the worst relapse ever. I discovered the deep web and I ended up starting buying ketamine off the deep web and LSD, acid. I was buying all sorts of stuff. I even bought fentanyl at one point and had to get Narcan because I felt like I was overdosing on that. Um, and it was horrible. It was horrible. I did enjoy the ketamine, but I was lying to myself saying that the ketamine was treating my depression and treating my drug addiction and treating all the problems that I had in my life when really it was just another drug for me to abuse. I was snorting the stuff around the clock, overdosing. I had multiple overdoses, ended up in the hospital, and I ended up seeing my best friend who died, my old best friend who recently overdosed and died. That was one of the reasons that led me to having a huge relapse is when he died. I ended up seeing his sister at the hospital when I overdosed on the ketamine. And I was on muscle relaxers, ketamine. I was taking everything. I was drinking like a 24 pack a day, and I went off the freaking rails. I said a bunch of stupid stuff to a bunch of business partners. I acted dumb in front of clients, and I said a bunch of hurtful things to my wife, and we ended up separating and ultimately got a divorce. And I screwed my entire life up. And then I sold my house because I was so upset. I sold my house and spent even more of the money on drugs, moved back in with my parents, and then I was living in the driveway in an RV, and my life just got progressively worse. I ended up in a mental hospital because I went so crazy. I went on a 3 day crazy bender on alcohol and cocaine, and um, this guy crashed my motorcycle. I ended up in the mental hospital because I had the shakes so bad I thought I was going to have a seizure from all the alcohol that I was drinking. And I ended up in the mental hospital, got diagnosed with bipolar 2. I got put on lithium. Then I got released and sent home. And I ended up cheating on my wife with a girl from the mental hospital. Ended up leaving my parents' house because I didn't want to live there anymore. Moved in with my aunt up in Pennsylvania. And then from there, I bounced around and kept using. I even started smoking weed again, even though it wasn't good for my lung. I started vaping again, vaping nicotine vapes. I just had a full blown relapse. I was doing shrooms. But I eventually stopped buying stuff off the deep web. I eventually quit ketamine, even though I just uh, started using it again from one of those online services that sends ketamine to your house through the mail legally instead of buying it off the deep web. I tried to do that again. So I went down south. I moved down south. I bought a piece of property down south. I was 9 months sober. I got off of everything. I was 9 months sober and I built a relationship. I started dating again. I found this girl, this southern girl who I really liked, this southern blonde girl who I really liked. We hit it off. And then I was alone on Thanksgiving. And yep, it was the holidays that got me. I was alone on Thanksgiving. I started thinking about my family back in Jersey. I started thinking about my ex wife and how I was alone on Thanksgiving. And the girl who I was dating, she had a family and she already had kids, and she was home with her family and dealing with stuff, and I just couldn't handle it. I felt so alone. I I tried calling the girl, I couldn't get a hold of her, and I thought she was ignoring me. And then I started thinking, looking at old pictures and stuff, and I just couldn't handle it anymore. So what was my answer? I drove straight to Walmart. I bought a 12 pack of Heineken. I came back and I got shit faced. And then I called the girl, said something stupid. She flipped out on me, called me a narcissist, told me to get the hell out of her life. She changed her number. Some guy texted me, said, "Don't call my wife again." And the whole thing exploded, right? So now I'm drinking again. 9 months sober. Now I'm drinking again. So then I leave the South, go back to Jersey for the holidays, right? Just going back for Christmas. I ended up running into my high school sweetheart on the dating apps, and I was still drinking. I was still drinking at the time. But I was so happy that I ran into her, and I thought it was all going to work out. I was like, oh my God, it's like my high school sweetheart reunion. We had a 5 hour conversation on the phones. I was staying at my sister's house, talking to my old girlfriend from high school, and I was like, oh my God, this is it. Like, this is the clincher, right? So I was talking to her for a couple of weeks. By the time New Year's hits, I really started pouring it on. I was trying to go see her at her house. I was at my cousin's girlfriend's house, and my old girlfriend lived right nearby. But she had a daughter who was living with her, and I was trying to get up with her on New Year's. I was sitting there drinking at my cousin's girlfriend's house, taking shots, and I was hitting on her hard. And she finally, once I pushed her to try to see her, she shut me down, and she shut me down hard. So, oh, our lives don't line up anymore. This, that, and the third. So that ended up falling apart, and that really killed me. That was like the nail in the coffin. But at least I still had a job, right? So I still had a job. I was making decent money doing online marketing, went back to online marketing. But then I relapsed at my job. I started drinking and taking ketamine and going back to work. And then finally I stopped drinking and I was sober for a period, a couple of weeks. But then I got the itch again and I went to the dispensary and got a vape pen, and then that was it. I got fired because I was high at work, and then once I lost and I lost my job. But luckily, I was able to find a new girlfriend that I really liked. Ended up getting remarried. But I've still been battling. Then I was 5 months sober. All right, so my new girlfriend turned wife knows about my struggles and knows that I have a history of addiction. I made it 5 months sober because when I first started dating her, I was taking her out to the bars and restaurants and drinking and stuff, and we had a good time, but she quickly saw that I had a problem because I couldn't stop. She would stop, and then the next day I would still be like, "Oh, come on, let's get some more. Let's get some more. Let's get another six pack. Let's get another 12 pack." And she quickly saw that it was becoming a problem for me, whereas it wasn't for her. And I ended up crashing my mom's car drunk. Um, and things started getting really bad again. And I got a third DUI, my third lifetime DUI, down in Wildwood, New Jersey, last 4th of July, because I was really depressed. The holidays always get me. I was depressed on the holidays. I was like, why don't I have a family? How come I'm not down at the shore on 4th of July with my family? How come I don't have a stable place to live? Where's my family? Where's my kids? Where's my normal life? Like, I have a job. I had a job, but I just felt like my whole family life was falling apart. And I didn't really want to live in Jersey. And I still had the Colorado real estate company that was there. And I just felt like an outsider in my own state because I never wanted to go back there. And then I found myself back there again with the same old memories, driving through the same old towns, thinking of the same old people who overdosed back in the day. And I never wanted to live there. And I'm still living within 10 miles of where I grew up. Yeah, I was making good money. I was doing the I was happy with my job, but I wasn't happy with my personal life. And that's what drove me to drink. And so I ended up getting a third DUI. That charge is still pending. I have a trial coming up next month in April for my third DUI. Um, and you know, so now I'm 6 days sober right now. I finally got back out of Jersey after going on a huge binger. So on New Year's, me and my wife started drinking again. It was just supposed to be a one-time thing. And so I started drinking. I was 5 months sober, drank on New Year's. I didn't drink for a whole week after that. Then I drank the next weekend, right? So then I fell into this pattern of drinking once a week, once a week, once a week. But I would drink a lot. I would drink like a 12 pack once a week, 12 pack once a week. So I fell into that pattern, and that lasted about 3 months. And then I started drinking every day again because the stress started getting to me. I started thinking about, why am I still living on the East Coast? I want to go back to Colorado. Then went on a huge bender. It caused a problem between me and my wife. We temporarily got into a huge fight, and I ended up moving back to my parents' house temporarily. But luckily, my real estate company has generated a deal in Colorado, which is where I'm living now. So my plan is to treat this house flipping opportunity as sort of a rehabilitation getaway. So I'm kind of trying to live here at this house, try not to relapse, which is much easier for me when I'm not in the state that I'm from. And I'm a big proponent. I'm really big on getting out of your hometown. I believe that is key. I believe it's critical because there's something that hardwires in your brain. They say those taxi drivers that drive around New York City, they get really good memories because their hippocampuses like know all the streets and everything like that. Well, I believe that your brain ties in those memories from your hometown of all the different streets you went down, all the people's houses that you went to and used drugs, all the different drug dealers that you bought from. It wires your brain in an addictive pattern so that it makes it much easier when you get stressed out again the next time something happens in your life. You're more likely to just go down that same favorite neural pathway, like that one meme online, if you've ever seen it. Something happens in your life, just take the slide. Take the slide that you've always taken, right? So if you remove yourself from your hometown, it at least creates a little bit of a barrier. So you're in an area where you're unfamiliar. You don't have memories of all your friends who overdosed. You don't have memories of buying drugs here and there and on this corner. Sure, you could still go out and seek it and find it if you really wanted to, but at least you don't have the memories that your brain can just compulsively enact and send you down that circuit when something happens. Of course, you could still go to the restaurant and buy beer. Of course, you could still go to Walmart and get some beer. So it's not a foolproof plan, but at least it's better than living in the hometown and not only being subject to all those old memories, but also having direct access to all those things anyway, right? So to me, it at least gives you a fighting chance. It may not be much of a leg up, but at least it's something. And I felt like that was the something that I needed and the something that I never had when I was still trapped in my hometown. So that's all I really had to say. I'm 6 days sober now. I don't plan on going back. I'm still having some cravings for alcohol. You know, it is tempting to just go down and get drunk and forget about your problems. But you know what? I'm trying to focus on work. What I realized was the alcohol and the drug addiction took way more away from my business and my professional career, not only my family, you know, it definitely took from my family life, my personal life, my professional life. But you know what? When you're trying to rebuild and you're trying to stay sober, I think one of the most important things is your career and your professional life. Family life is going to be rocky for an addict, right? Because you've already burnt those bridges long ago. So you're probably not going to have much to stand on there, but at least you can still maintain some type of a career, right? So that becomes like the last life raft that you're kind of holding on to, right? But actually, I would put family above career. It's just that, you know, you need a career to provide for your family if you're going to have one anyway. So you have to get your career right if you're going to get back on the horse and go find and go rebuild a relationship, right? Which you can't do while you're drinking, right? And if you're an addict, no good woman is going to put up with your drinking, right? So I'm on my last chance with my new wife. She says if I drink again, she's definitely going to leave me. And I'm trying to build a new life. I'm trying to start a family and become more of a family man, be more responsible. Um, so that's what I'm working on now. That's what I'm focusing on. And that's all I really had to say. I hope this helps at least one person out there. I know there's only 10 subscribers on this channel, but hopefully this video will get a couple of views and resonate with a couple of people to help somebody. So thanks for watching. My name's Brian. Good luck on your journey of sobriety and see you.